And welcome to the Midday Show. I am Jeff Everett. He is Mark Messina.
Yes.
A lot of stuff going on today. I'm excited. Politics and sports. I want to talk to you about. There's flags. There's a big soccer match
Fun
today.
with flags.
I want to talk to you about that. A Heinz lawsuit involving mac and cheese. Everyone's made mac and cheese.
We should have just dedicated the whole show to mac.
Just mac and cheese. And then I think you're going to be really interested in this. There's a lot more FTX drama. There's even bidding wars between different tech companies. There's some Musk stuff might be banned from a specific tech company. Really, really a lot of tech drama that I want to talk to you about. Deion Sanders, movie stuff. I mean, there's a lot going on. We found 2 new minerals. Mark, how are you feeling?
Where?
On an asteroid.
Nice.
Yeah. All I wanna do is feel awesome. All I wanna do is feel awesome. All I wanna do is feel awesome.
Too many things to choose from. Where do you want to start? Where do you want to go?
Just think, there are people in the world who find they found it on an asteroid, I assume, that landed on Earth somewhere.
Yeah.
So they find this thing. There are this many percentage of people who find something and want to figure out what it is. Because most of us are like, oh, look at that. Wonder what that is. And then we throw it off to the side. But then there are other people who have to figure that we've never discovered that before.
Yeah.
It's like people that pull a fish out of the water and like, oh, look, that's a fish. But to some people, oh my, it's a coelacanth. We haven't seen that fish since 1924 off the coast of Madagascar. And you're like, how the hell do you know?
A big thing now is not discovering species; it's rediscovering species.
The ones that we thought were gone.
Yes, that's like a whole new thing now.
It's one of the things that trail cams have really. Yes. They're like, oh my, I didn't know that there were coyotes here.
Yeah,
and that is yes.
The other thing that's more, I guess, enjoyable about it. The reason it's a big deal right now. If you go looking for something that's never been found, you're less likely to find it. So the prospect of rediscovering something, your success rate is typically much higher. So it's like a big thing now, like we know something was there. Can we find it again? And like 10, 15, 20% of the time, they're finding it. So that's like a really big deal for the science community.
You know what would be awesome to find? A Nittany lion.
Well, see, like, are you implying a mountain lion in Pennsylvania?
I thought, and maybe you know more about this than I do. I thought a Nittany lion was a bigger mountain lion that used to exist that is now extinct.
So the name Nittany, I don't know if it is like its own separate species. I would guess not. I thought Nittany was basically implying it is a mountain lion or a cougar. Like they are essentially all part of the same family.
And maybe. Or maybe this is just like legend or whatever. Maybe there was a kind. I thought it was bigger. And there was this. It is a cougar or a mountain or whatever.
But a Nittany lion.
It doesn't look like the one now. It was just bigger.
Have you seen, so in like north central Pennsylvania and even in different parts like out towards Erie, there are photographs of what appear to be much larger cats, not like way bigger than bobcats. And not only is there photos of this, like if you go online, they're pretty good. Like some are game trail, some are like distant, like phone footage. Like you can see something clearly walking across like a ridge. And it is not a bear. It's bigger than a bobcat. They've also recently, in the last probably like 5 years, they keep getting photographs of darker cats. So these are darker, almost like panther color. More so than like the color of a cougar.
Where are these?
These are like in western northern PA. But there have been photographs like in north central Pennsylvania. It's not like clear evidence. Like to me, a photograph is not enough evidence, right? But they have clear photographs of something that you could only describe as like a larger cat.
But not Bigfoot.
Not Bigfoot. No Bigfoot yet.
You know, as you mentioned that, when you mentioned northern PA, we were remiss in not mentioning a very celebratory thing in a local politician's career. Wasn't it Gene Yaw?
Yeah.
Didn't you say?
Yes.
That he is now
going to be the representative for Tioga County.
Tioga County.
Which I said I cannot think of a greater. I would call it a reward.
Or an honor. It is an honor.
Yes, to basically represent the county of Tioga.
So, and it was just, so who represented it before? Or was it part of the redistricting?
It was
and
all
that?
part of the redistricting
Okay.
map. We're going to run something on NorthcentralPa.com that shows all the redistricting in North Central.
I can only imagine the thrill on his face when they're like, "Hey, Gene, you got Tioga now."
Yeah.
He probably jumped so high.
Yes. Balloons, confetti, all
Like-
of the above.
Glossburg is
Lot of-
now my
A
territory.
lot of possibilities. That's all I'm going to say. A lot of possibilities for Gene Yas.
So there he is. He probably hasn't come down off the cloud yet.
I don't think it's
When
him.
was it announced? Like
I got the announcement yesterday.
you saw it yesterday.
Now, when it was actually announced,
When
I don't
he
know,
knew.
but that's when I first found out.
It has
so.
probably been just one straight party since
Cloud
he
nine,
found out.
Cloud nine, my man. What do you want? You want to do politics and sports? I got some. Mac
Do you
and
think
cheese.
people don't know you're from Tioga County when we're talking about this? Is
Like,
there anyone that's like, what, they're
here's
missing the joke?
Here's what's funny. I think most people now know that I'm from Tioga County. The sad part is, I think there's people that actually think I grew up on a legitimate farm.
You did.
You have them convinced that
You
like
grew up
I
on a
was
farm.
You have people convinced that I was like milking cows at 4:30 in the morning.
You weren't, but other people were.
Well, that's the problem isn't whether or not I was born in Tioga County. They really think I was like a farmhand at one point in my life.
No,
They would be greatly disappointed.
I should have said you are. Yes, you know the least of anyone that ever was raised on a farm.
About farm things.
About, yes.
100%.
Any mechanical.
Yeah, I think I would be able to figure it out. I know a lot of I'm trying to think how to say this. I know knowledge that is not applied. So like again, we just had like a 2-minute conversation about like big cats in Pennsylvania,
Right.
which I feel like the majority of people who don't live in Tioga County or somewhere like that wouldn't know, right? But if you said to me like, "Hey, like get that tractor prepped and get her going," no chance.
Well,
Like,
and I know
would be-
when you
I'd
said,
be
"I
lost.
think I could figure it out," I'm like, "Yeah, you'd call your dad."
No, I can figure it out.
That's step one. Hey,
That-
Dad.
That would be step one of like, hey, do you think this is a stupid idea? Step two would be like the manual, YouTube, doing whatever. Like I'd figure it out.
Okay.
You know
Okay.
I would. That's the thing. You're gonna say that, but you know that I would figure it out.
Maybe. All right. Fun with flags.
Yeah, let's do fun with flags.
You
first.
did watch Big Bang enough, right? You know we're fun with
yeah,
flags.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Do you watch the other show, The Young Sheldon?
No,
I've heard it's good, but not as good as Big Bang.
I stopped.
Okay.
I think I told you I stopped watching like regular.
When it's on though, it's hard to pass it up. It's
It's
hard to turn it off. When
If it's a sitcom that I saw before, if I'm flipping through,
yes.
I just watched 10 minutes of a Friends the
Yeah.
other day, just to kind of remind myself.
So you would have to be living under a rock to not know the USA has a chance to advance in the World Cup. So after 4 years ago, not even qualifying,
Not even making it.
we do. Today is the day. We have to win. A draw isn't good enough. Have to win to move on. We are going to have a match with Iran, and you will laugh. Do not say Iran today, because a U.S. soccer player got called out at a press conference for continuing to say Iran. The coach and the player kept saying it. It is Iran, according to the media member who corrected them.
Iran.
So this was, yes, Iran. So this was a very, very, they made sure that we knew that we were saying their country's name
Not to
wrong.
be confused with Aaron.
Correct. No, there's no confusion on my end.
All right.
That confusion would
All
be on your end.
Okay, Iran.
Iran. Essentially what happened, the U.S. Soccer Federation briefly posted images of Iran's flag on its social media account this weekend without the emblem of the Islamic Republic of Iran. So, see, I did it again, Iran. So essentially they kept the colors, they kept the format, everything else, but they took the symbol in the middle off of the flag. This was done they're having a women's movement basically in Iran. This was done to show support for the protesters as opposed to the country itself. A spokesperson for the U.S. Soccer Federation said the posts were meant to be a moment, which you can take from that. I don't think it was the greatest answer. I don't think it really is an answer, saying it was meant to be a moment. Here's what I would say, and I'll start with this, and then you can tell me I'm an idiot, or you can tell me I'm not completely off my rocker. I have said to you before, nothing incites me more than when people care more about a flag than the actual country itself or the things going on inside of it. So there are people that are devastated when someone does not uphold the flag, but they feel no remorse at all when there are things within the nation or the country that are happening. Like they just shrug it off. But don't do anything to the flag. So I've said to you before, I think some of the flag stuff is overblown. I think regardless of what country, what state, like I don't care. Like I can't express it enough. I respect you, and I can respect the good things about your country or what you stand for. I do not care about the symbolism, the symbolic flag. I don't. Doesn't mean anything to me.
You know what that means to me?
What's that?
You would have sucked at fun with flag.
I would have been really, really bad.
You would have been the partner that
Really?
nobody wanted on their team.
I would have been really, really bad at it.
No, I do get your point. When it goes back to the when Colin Kaepernick and the other guys were kneeling and the protests. You understand the sides of especially military people who fought for it.
Mm-hmm.
But then their side was, but you fought for our freedom to protest it.
Mm-hmm.
But the other aspect is that the Black Society of America was saying, like, what the flag represents to you isn't what it represents to me, because the flag treats you differently than it treats me. And it could have and should have opened an incredible dialogue and conversation.
Yes.
But it didn't. It was just like,
Agreed.
Don't you do that.
I've said this to several people. I love my country. I really, really do. I think I'm in the greatest place in the world.
You won't appreciate this. When you said I love my country, I almost went into the Little League pledge.
You can go ahead.
No.
I haven't said it in so long. You probably know it. I can't remember it. I love my country very much.
And
I've never
play
disrespected.
fair and strive to win.
Get it out of your system.
Right.
I've never disrespected a veteran. I've trying to convince my girlfriend to put a flag in the front of our house. Like, I would like to have an American flag in front of the house. With that being said, somebody made the argument, imagine if they took a star off the flag. Imagine if they took the stripe off the flag. I don't know. Like, I don't know.
You know how long it would be till you noticed?
A long time. It would take a lot for me to notice. So it's this weird balance of, I feel like something's happening out of nothing. I feel like Iran is making something of it, but I also feel like the U.S. Soccer Federation, like, just it's a flag symbol. Post it and be done with it. Like, why are you altering it? Like, so on both sides, but again, like, my whole thing is, they're flags. They're not real people. They're not actual countries. Like, they are symbols of the country that technically should have nothing to do with anything.
That we should care about the people more than we care about the cloth.
I don't know. Call me crazy. Call me nuts.
I have a trivia question for you.
Go ahead.
Back with Fun with Flags. Do you know how big? Because there was 13 stars and 13 stripes.
Yes.
That was the original.
Mm-hmm.
And we've consistently added stars throughout.
Right.
Do you know at the beginning, we started adding stripes as well. And then they realized this isn't going to work.
Okay.
So do you know how many stripes was the most stripes ever on an American flag?
It's 13 now.
Yes.
I do not know what the most
They got to 15.
Okay.
And then they were like, well, we're going to have like a tapestry.
Right.
It's no longer going to be a flag.
It's going to be lines.
I just read that somewhere, and I don't know where I read that. But they're like, we'll keep the original 13 and we'll just add stuff. 15 is the answer.
I had a student once ask me if I thought it was redundant that there were 13 stripes but 50 stars, because essentially you were doubling up. Because the stripes stand for the original.
The original 13.
And then the 50. So you have 13 states that are essentially doubled up on the flag. And they felt that was redundant. And you know what? I kind of agreed with that.
Well, I never thought of it that way, but it's kind of like, this is where we were and this is where we're going.
Totally. Yep. I get it.
So
I don't listen. I'm not saying we should change flag. I'm just saying he had brought it up.
I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, they had brought it up to me, and I'd never thought about the fact that yes, some of the states are technically represented double on the flag.
All right. So here's my question for you. You're trying to be serious, and
you're fine.
I am not.
No, it's fine.
So we play Iran.
Yes, 2:00.
Because we tied Wales, tied Great Britain or England. What are they called in soccer? Is it England?
There's England, and then Wales is also in our. They're both in our.
So they would be both Great Britain. So I guess because some places there's England, and then some places it's the UK and whatever.
Right.
So we tied England. Apparently we dominated England, and we just didn't score.
So people that are smarter than me, that really know soccer, have said that as happy as Americans are that we're this close to getting into the bracket, real soccer fans are not happy. because they will make
Because
the
we had a
argument.
win that we didn't win.
2. Like real soccer fans are telling me,
Oh, we blew it against
we
Wales.
should be 2-0.
Okay.
That's so it's this weird kind of position of like I'm just excited we have a chance to get the bracket, but real soccer people are like, no, like we should be 2-0 right now.
Yeah, okay. But in the world of these sports where you've got hockey and you've got where ties are still wins, loss, tie. A tie is not, I mean, football kind of exists. A tie is not brutal. As the old saying goes, a tie is like kissing your sister. Now, I can't really speak to this because I don't have a sister. You do. I don't see kissing your sister as being a neutral thing. I see that as a negative.
As a negative. Well, I think that's why wins are worth 3 and not 2.
I guess.
Because in hockey, correct me if I'm wrong, in hockey it's 2-1, not 3-1.
Yeah, it's 2-1.
Yeah, so in soccer it's 3-1. So they're really saying like, hey, like a draw isn't that.
I guess.
It
but
mellows
it's like
it out.
if you go out on the town, you're a college kid and you hit the bar, like, or if you're college soccer, like there's wins and ties and losses, and a tie is way better than a loss. So if you're that college kid, then after the night you go out on the town, you can either kiss some other chick, you could kiss no chick, or kissing your sister is somewhere in the middle. I would argue kissing your sister is below kissing no one. Wouldn't you?
Your point is well taken. Here's what really bothers me about this. If you're Iran today, you're not even playing to win. Like if you're Iran, you're playing to draw. Your only goal today is to not let the Americans score. You're like if you're Iran, you might have spent 70-80% of your preparation on just how making sure America doesn't score, knowing you yourself, you don't even have to score a goal today.
You would have
That's weird. Like imagine a football or a basketball or a baseball game of this magnitude where you could show up and basically say, we don't have to win today.
I get it. And we'd have to ask smart people who know soccer. I can relate to it in hockey when you're watching a team with a one. If when you just never control the puck, when you're just trying to clear it, and if the other team keeps attacking and attacking and attacking, it's a very dangerous way to play.
Sure.
I think if they just play defense all day, which in hockey would be defense, but I guess in soccer it's defense.
Yes.
It's a very dangerous. I would think they're going to be a little conservative. But if they don't come out and attack, I think they're in trouble. If we keep the ball in their end all day, we're going to score just by dumb. I mean,
yeah, we're going to find out.
We are
going to see.
Yeah,
we're going to find because we haven't been very good at scoring so far.
Well, we have not. Well, we hit the crossbar against England, didn't we?
Yes.
Who did they beat Wales?
Yes, crushed Wales. I think they really put it to them. I could be wrong. It'll be interesting. And then you have all this flag stuff on top of it, which I don't know. I don't get it.
Yeah, I remember the one that comes and it's not nearly as like flags. I get their reverence to each individual country, but you're right with all these things. Do you remember when Terrell Owens caught a touchdown pass against the Cowboys, ran to the star and did this? They went and tackled him.
Yeah,
it's like
it's the star.
It's a logo.
It's
paint on turf.
You know what I really respected last weekend was Michigan planted their flag in the O of the field of Ohio State.
Okay.
And there's a couple of clips, and you can see Ohio State football players walking past it. They don't say anything. They don't start anything.
Right,
they don't. It's
right.
What are you doing? You played the football game. You won or you lost. Like the winning team's celebrating, the losing team's trying to get it together. Like I don't know what to tell you. Anything more than that is just drama, in my opinion.
I get it.
I also wanted to mention this to you. Have you seen the migrant worker stuff in Qatar? Because we haven't mentioned this. No. A spokesman, you'll love this.
Oh, is this where they're packing the bleachers with migrant workers?
Well, so it's easier for migrant workers to get in. I've seen that.
Okay.
Like they're allowing migrant workers to go in and see the game. Some are arguing it's for perspective, right? Like they want the world to feel as if a lot of people came to watch World Cup. Qatar is arguing that they're doing it as like a reward to the migrant workers. Like it's a handout. So depending on who you talk to is what's really going on. They have a person. Are you ready for this? I'm looking for their actual official title because it is wild. But they have come out and they have said that between 400 and 500 migrant workers are now a cause of death was building the World Cup stadiums. It was originally reported that they thought over 6,000. Qatar came out and said it's less than 50. Now Qatar during this has had a spokesman come out and said, yeah, we lost somewhere between 400 and 500, which to me is unbelievably vague. Like if you were going to come out and make like, 400, 500, somewhere in there. I don't remember it or not. So God, I wish I could find. He is the Secretary General of Qatar's Supreme Committee for Delivery and Legacy.
Oh, geez.
The Secretary General of Qatar's Supreme Committee for Delivery and Legacy. He's basically like the Jin Psaki of Qatar.
Who?
The girl who used to come out and speak for Joe Biden.
I don't know.
The press. He's basically the press secretary.
The press secretary.
But in Qatar, you are called the Secretary General
What's your
of
name?
Supreme Court Committee for Delivery and Legacy. Isn't it Jin Psaki?
Okay.
You don't remember her? Red hair. She'd come out. She'd have to try to like make everything seem good.
Tell me that job wouldn't suck.
It's the worst job. You and I've talked about it. It's the worst job. Listen, being the Secretary General of Qatar's Supreme Committee for Delivery and Legacy would suck. Yes.
Okay, that one maybe is worse than press secretary.
Yes, that one's bad.
I wonder how often this is probably like a sitcom, like not West Wing. What was it? Veep?
Uh-huh.
What was the one with the chick?
Veep was the HBO one
from Seinfeld
with Julia
Louis-Dreyfus, where the press secretary's talking to the president like before they go out, like thanks for this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go eat all these bullets that are directed for you because you said something stupid, and now I got to pretend that it wasn't stupid,
Correct.
Even though you said something stupid.
Correct. Robin says that it's Kelly Conway now, which she's correct.
I've heard of her.
You don't remember Jen? It was Jen Ptsaki or something like that. Jen Psaki.
You say redhead.
Yeah.
I maybe
vaguely remember her.
I'm not a big
she had the rough years of like the early Biden stuff where like we were arguing about COVID, Afghanistan. I mean, she got like really rocked for a while.
When you said the rough years, had they ended?
Well,
I mean, I know they're better now.
No,
are we describing them as not? I wouldn't go as far as to say smooth.
No, I get what you're saying. You are correct. All right, let's do the mac and cheese thing before we run out of time today because we've been putting that off. A Florida woman, according to NBC News, is suing Kraft and Heinz is another one it's Kraft Heinz Company for $5 million. $5 million. Saying Velveeta shells and cheese takes longer to prepare than the packaging claims. Her name is Amanda Ramirez. She allegedly is deceptive and fraudulent packaging with the claim that the meal will be ready in 3.5 minutes. Amanda is claiming the meal cannot be prepared in 3.5 minutes. False advertising, $5 million. What say you?
I would take that challenge. I could make you macaroni and cheese from the package in 5.5 minutes that you could.
Oh
eat.
No, 3.5.
Or 3.5 minutes. Sorry, I have 5 minutes. 3.5 minutes. And you'd eat it. It might not be as good. It would be edible. You would survive.
Here's my argument because I'm spoiled. I do the Cracker Barrel mac and cheese, which you really have to make on the stove. Like it comes in the box. You got to boil the water, all that stuff. So I don't really do the like microwave, hot and ready, like that type of mac and cheese. However, you've had kids. I'm sure you've had to do it. Yes? No? Maybe so?
I don't know. We don't do a lot of microwave.
Okay,
I'm going to boil it on the stove and with the orange. It's got to be orange.
Okay. So I would be lost in this. Here's what I would guess. 3.5 minutes. How long does it have to be in the microwave for? 2? 3?
I don't know.
Here's what I'm saying. It's not worth $5 million. However, I would imagine it takes longer than 3.5 minutes to make Velveeta shells and cheese in the microwave. Am I crazy for thinking that? It seems absurd to imply that you could make this in 3.5 minutes.
Does it?
I think we should do it.
If
I think
it's
we
not
should
frozen,
get some.
I mean, I take SpaghettiOs out of a can. It doesn't take 3.5 minutes. Why would it take?
How long do you put your SpaghettiOs in the microwave?
A minute and a half. Minute 45.
So from grabbing the can to SpaghettiO in your mouth, you think it's less than 3.5 minutes?
Well, I guess if the advertisement says can be ready in 3.5 minutes, I guess then we start. The question becomes, when are you starting?
Okay.
Like if I have to find the can, I mean, when I grab the can off the grocery store shelf, no, it's not going to be ready in 3.5 minutes. So when does it start? But from from when we start cooking until eating, I could have it in 3.5 minutes.
Okay, so here's her main argument. Quote, to provide consumers with a product that is actually ready in 3.5 minutes, the product would need to be cooked in the microwave for less than 3.5 minutes so that all the preparation steps could be completed in the 3.5 minute time frame, reads the lawsuit filed in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Florida. In the suit, the mac and cheese 5 instructions that appear on the product packaging are listed: removing the lid, adding the water, microwaving, stirring in the powdered cheese sauce. So those are the instructions given that you can result in 3.5 minutes.
I mean, I get her point.
Here, listen. I think I agree with her.
I
but
do
I
agree
but I
with
would
her.
give her $5.
I was
not
gonna
$5 million.
I was going to say I'd give her a box and be like, sorry, here's a free lunch.
Here's a free.
Well, I'll give you 5. You can eat free lunch for a week. Like,
Can't get her a pallet? Not a pallet.
ooh, no, not a pallet.
Really? You wouldn't
No,
give her a
not
pallet for this?
Not for her. She's just a pain in the ass. Like, what is this lady really? What's her
get you.
point?
Can
Did
I
her ex-husband work for, and she's angry?
for the competition?
No, I think for the company.
Oh, for the company.
and
now
she's just
upset.
trying to.
You think that she used to be Mrs. Kraft Heinz at one point?
Maybe I got this from a friend of mine, a Facebook friend. The Indianapolis Colts, who you understand,
Yeah.
they lost last night.
Mhm.
They wore throwback uniforms
Mhm.
from 56
Okay.
something, 58. Well, a friend of mine from Baltimore, who is older than me, said it is just twisting the knife to old Colts fans
Okay.
because they wore uniforms from back when they were the Colts.
Okay.
Understanding they left Baltimore 38 years ago.
Mhm.
They've been the Indianapolis Colts longer than they were the Baltimore Colts.
Uh-huh.
And my response is, this would be like your wife left you 38 years ago.
Mhm.
25, you've been living and happily with a wonderful new wife for the last 25 years,
Mhm.
and you're still complaining about the old wife from 38 years ago.
Maybe the best analogy you've ever made on the show. I'm really happy. That was impressive.
And what makes it even more impressive,
I've sat through a lot of
I'm good at
on
analogies.
this show.
I'm better at analogies. You give me credit for. And what makes it even better is you're sad because you're a Colts fan and they lost to the Steelers.
We're really bad. We're not good. And we don't really have, I like Jeff Saturday. We don't really have like a staff. Like I don't
It's
even know
makeshift.
if it's the players. Everything just feels like it's stapled together right now, which is an awful way to go through your season. And the worst part is we've won 4 games
Right.
and a tie. So like maybe we'll get a top 8-10 pick. Like we're like it's
most teams are going to win 4 games.
okay.
They're confident.
That makes me feel better.
Because
but-
there's an extra game. There's 17
Yeah,
games.
it's not good. It's really not good. I wanted to say this to you. Speaking of kind of like petty lawsuits, I told you on Netflix right now, if you're bored, there is a great series called Pepsi, Where's My Jet? And it is
You've
about-
not told me this. What is
Okay.
this?
This is on Netflix. Really, really
Oh,
good.
yes, you did tell me
Okay.
this.
So back in the day, you had Pepsi points, right? You turn off the lid, you could get like sunglasses.
We all did that.
There was a commercial that showed a kid getting out of a jet, and at the bottom it said like 6.5 million Pepsi
Right.
points.
It was something
and it
ridiculous.
had the name of the jet. It was like a Hawkeye. I forget what it was, but it had the name of the jet, and it had no fine print underneath. And so this kid dedicated his entire summer to collecting 6 million Pepsi points, and he turned them into Pepsi and said, "Where's my jet?" So and it went to court and everything. I haven't finished the series yet, so when I do, maybe I'll report back what happens. But it is. When you watch these commercials now, when they all have like the fine print on the bottom, and they all have like the fine print on the bottom, this is why. Like, this is why you literally can't watch a commercial anymore without that little tiny writing on the bottom of the screen. Really, really interesting stuff.
It is fat, and not to change the subject because I know you want to talk about
No, you're
FTX.
fine.
The world of fine print.
Mhm.
I'm a realtor, and I've had old time realtors tell me back when we started to buy a house, it was a 1-page contract.
Mhm.
Now it's 14.
Right.
Because there's all these, because somewhere along the line something came up and someone got sued and they had to add it to the contract. So we have now 14 pages of this.
Right.
One of the places, and this isn't really a lawsuit, but one of the reasons that George Lucas is rich is because nobody thought Star Wars was going to be any good.
Right.
And he got the rights to everything
Yes.
because nobody cared. And it was the 70s, and what's merchandising? I mean, merchandising wasn't nearly what
Sure.
it became. So, yeah, what do we care? We'll give him the rights. One of the other stories, now, no, you have never heard this unless I told you. When one of the reasons that Kiss has merchandise everywhere, and Kiss, the band, owns their merchandising rights,
Okay.
is this is a cute little story. You'll like this one.
Mm-hmm.
23 years old, 24 years old. They're a young band, and they're doing a concert, and he called it like HBO of Canada. This is in the mid 70s. Is filming the concert.
That would be fascinating to see, by the way, HBO of Canada.
It was
Continue.
something equivalent.
No, I get
to
it, but that would be fascinating. Go ahead.
So they're filming it. They're going to broadcast it in Canada. And so they get this contract. Gene Simmons says he's laying in a hotel room. Why they hand him this contract, sign it. And he's like, well, I was always told, read what you're signing. So I read it. And he's just killing time in the hotel room. And it goes through, and it's all this stuff. And it says, blah, blah, blah. They'll broadcast it twice. And then after they broadcast it twice, the film becomes property of HBO Canada.
Okay.
And he's like, I'm an obnoxious 24-year-old. I'm a young rock star. He goes, I pick up a pen off the nightstand in the hotel. I cross out where it says becomes property of HBO Canada, and I just write Kiss really big on the contract.
Okay.
Just to be obnoxious. I sign it, turn it in, whatever. He's like, fast forward like 3 months, and we're at our studio, which is like this big, and this package shows up. And we're like, hey, what is it? And our manager's like, oh, it's the reels from the concert. And he's like, why? I thought they got him. He goes, well, no, you wrote on the contract that you wanted them. And he goes, well, I just scribbled it. And they're like, oh no, that counts. It's like, he's like, so we can do that?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, that's how contract law works.
Right.
So every time out for the rest of, they're like, oh, they're like, no, we get it.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh no, that's how not it works for rock bands. They're like, well, that's how it works for us. We own everything.
Yeah.
So that's why they're uber rich, because he was just this obnoxious young guy who just wrote it, having no idea what he was doing. Yeah. And discovered the. So every trinket you buy, like because you hear all these rock bands that get screwed by management and got screwed by the broke and all. That's why Kiss is uber rich.
Yeah, they got to keep it all.
Because they got
2 side notes. Gene Simmons was just recently on the Bill Maher podcast. You would probably enjoy it.
Oh, really?
He would Club Random. You would enjoy it. It was very, very good. It was like an hour-long conversation.
He's a bright guy, but he's kind of a jerk.
A little bit, yeah. But I enjoyed it, so you would uber enjoy it. My little tidbit to that, Avatar's coming out soon.
Yes.
December 16th. I believe it's December 16th. 10 plus years waiting for it. There is a great clip going around of Matt Damon. Have you seen it?
No.
So there's a great clip going around right now of Matt Damon talking about James Cameron calling him and trying to convince him to be the lead role for Avatar.
In the original?
Yes. And Matt Damon turned it down to take on another role. And Cameron said, this is Matt Damon speaking, by the way. Matt Damon said, James Cameron on the phone said to him, I don't really need a star. Like the movie is the star. Which, just like the genius of James Cameron to know, like, this movie's going to be, the movie is what people are, not the people in the movie. And Matt Damon was like, no, I don't think I need another franchise. Because at that time, he was doing the Bourne Identities. Okay. And Cameron offered him 10% of Avatar. And Matt Damon turned it down. And so Damon jokes in the clip, he's kind of like, there's no way an actor or actress has turned down more money than Matt Damon. Is Matt Damon's whole point. Because 10% of Avatar, I mean, he's loaded. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Well, he's loaded anyway, but yes.
Yes, but I mean, that's different. 10% of Avatar is I mean, you're talking like the Disney stuff, like the Pandora stuff. I mean, it's another level. The other thing too, I think Americans have a hard time relating to the popularity of Avatar. Because overseas, it's Star Wars overseas. Like the way Americans view Star Wars, like overseas, that is Avatar. Like that is like the overwhelming sci-fi. Like
I know one of the aspects of film when people are like, and they'll say, well, in foreign markets it'll crush. In the U.S. it'll be okay.
Yeah.
But because it's one of the reasons why there are way fewer sports movies than we think. Because a lot of sports movies, especially American football, they just don't translate.
Yeah. No,
So-
it makes a ton of sense.
Interesting.
I wanted to do this. I wanted to just kind of catch you up on some stuff because we've talked a lot about Musk and Twitter. We've talked a lot about FTX and Bankman-Fried. There's a lot of different things going on. First, I told you Apple right now is considering banning Twitter from their app. Let me rephrase that. From the App Store. So essentially, if you have an Apple device, you would no longer be able to download it. You would basically have to rig your phone in order to be on the platform on your phone, or you would have to get on it through your Safari or whichever internet provider you use on your phone. So like you could go to twitter.com on your Safari app.
Okay. Sorry, I'm dealing with our tech guy.
You're fine. So there's that whole aspect. I find that fascinating that they would even want to consider banning them. I told you about this. FTX, it is a complete coincidence. Michael Lewis, who is in my opinion, one of the best writers we have in America. Really in-depth, analytical, wrote Moneyball. Is the one he's most known for by men is Moneyball. Yes?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
So Michael Lewis, complete coincidence, was with Sam Bankman-Fried while this was all happening with FTX.
Yeah, you told me that.
Which is just, what are the odds that one of the best writers we have happens to be there for the moment all of this stuff is happening? He has started working on a book. While he was working on the book, he has already worked on the movie rights, the movie script. Apple thought that they had bought the script, literally announced it on some of their social media, that they have the rights to the FTX story from Michael Lewis. We're finalizing terms, very, very excited. Like 3 hours later, still negotiating. 3 hours later, Amazon puts out and announces that they own the rights to the Michael Lewis script and book for the FTX scandal debacle. I call it a scandal. Other people call it
Wow.
something else. So I would love to. I mean, here's the other thing too. Michael Lewis obviously was a part of those negotiations. I would imagine it's going to end up being part of the book, is the negotiations between Apple and Amazon fighting for the
Maybe.
rights to this FTX thing. Because that almost in itself would be like a fascinating little
There is,
subplot.
when you deal with contracts, again, being in real
Mhm.
estate, there is a finalized, when it is done, when both parties have it, when it's been delivered, and there's rules about you can deliver it by email, you can
Mhm.
deliver it, whatever. But there are a lot of contracts that are agreed upon, but they're not done yet. Like, yes, this is the offer, we'll take it.
Mhm.
And now we just got to get initials and signatures. And I remember when my brother was pitching for Baltimore, and when he signed his first multi-year deal with the Orioles, and this is back in the mid-'90s, so there's no cell phones. The phone rang at the townhouse that we lived in, and I answered the phone, and it was his agent.
Mhm.
And they had come to a contract agreement.
Mhm.
And he said, "Is Mike there?" And I said, "No, he left for the ballpark." And he said, "All right, I'll call him at the ballpark, but if for some reason I don't get him and you see him, tell him do not sign the contract that they gave him because it's not right." And when these contracts are pages and 40 pages long,
Sure.
and so there is this like, yeah, we have an agreement and everybody's on board. When he went to then sign with the Yankees, he had to go and he had to take a physical and they have to do all this stuff and they have to put him in the MRI tube
Right.
and they were going to have a press conference at the end of the day once it, but because they were late at the doctor's office and the doctors were booked and blah, 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 and his wife wasn't there because she couldn't come because the kids had to do something. So they're like, let's just do this. You go home, we'll come back Thursday and we'll do the press conference.
Okay.
And we'll make sure we'll read the results of the blah, blah, blah. So for 48 hours, they had a handshake agreement, a verbal agreement, but he didn't have a real contract.
Sure.
So Boston could have called, the Dodgers could have called, anybody could have called,
Right.
and you end up with a situation like this. So in the real world, even in huge money deals,
Sure.
this stuff happens all the time. Yeah, you get it to my people, get it to my attorneys, and it'll get signed and it'll get worked out. But until it really gets signed,
Right.
it's just talk.
No, I'm with you. So right now, Amazon has the rights. It is right now the speculation is that it will be the largest purchase of a movie script or book by a studio company.
Well, I believe it.
Yeah.
But are they paying for it in cash or Bitcoin?
It's a good question. Amazon's dropping the cash, don't you think?
Or both?
I think they're dropping the cash.
What if they came to him
What
and
if
said,
they paid for it in FTT, the FTX token? Do you think
we
they'd
will
accept
pay
it?
we will pay half in cash
Okay.
and half in crypto? We're going to find out how much you really believe in crypto.
No, it's a very fair point. It's a very, very fair point. The last one here, the other big name, because we mentioned Musk and Twitter, we mentioned FTX, we mentioned Apple, we mentioned Amazon, Disney. Disney just switched CEOs again. Did you see this?
No.
So I believe it's Rob Iger is coming back. So Iger by most is considered to be like the greatest CEO of like modern times for what he did in Disney with the animated films and then theme parks, and then he bought Marvel, and Iger's just very highly respected. He is coming back. Part of the reason that is now coming out is they believe that the previous CEO who took over for Iger had connections and ties with FTX. And so it has not been announced yet, but it is believed that in the upcoming shareholders meeting for Disney, they are basically going to announce, it's going to show on the balance sheet that they lost money in investments into FTX. So
we should short Disney right now.
It doesn't look great. I don't know. I'm not implying Disney's going to fail. I'm not anything like that.
Yeah, it ain't close.
But Disney apparently, I guess this is what I'm saying. I think this FTX thing, I think for a lot of people it's like crypto and this, I said we talked about the Ontario teachers pension plan.
Right.
Like Disney now is switching CEO. I don't think people understand the tentacles and the reach and how many different people and companies just gave this dude money and now it's just gone. Like they just don't.
It's
they just
a different
don't know
version.
where $10 billion are.
It's a different version of Bernie Madoff.
It's wild. It's really, really crazy. And then, like again, he's not in jail. Like he's literally just doing interviews with like Vox and like nothing. It's like nothing's happening to him. It's really bizarre. Really, really weird. There's a good chance that in a couple of weeks Disney's going to announce that they lost a lot of money to FTX. And Disney's not doing anything about it. Well, instead of going after him, they got rid of their CEO.
But if he didn't,
I'm just saying.
I mean, there's aspects of investments like, hey, we're gonna build a shopping center, and we're gonna fill it, and everyone's gonna make money, and then all of a sudden there's no
they don't fill it.
What do you do?
I think it's on the bill of goods you're selling, and I think here the bill of goods clearly is not what they said it was. Like I told you, essentially when you gave this guy money, you weren't actually buying anything. He was just writing you an IOU to reflect what the number would be when you want it out.
Right.
Like that's the insane part about this is it's coming out now that FTX bought 0 Bitcoin. Think about that. They're a cryptocurrency exchange that right now it's being claimed they never bought a Bitcoin.
That's unique.
It's out of this world. It's absolutely incredible. So anyway, Disney's tied up in it now. Apple and Amazon bidding on the movie stuff, and then the Twitter thing being banned from Apple is
the only
tech
winner
world is crazy.
The only winner in all of it, Michael Lewis.
Michael Lewis is a rich man right
He
now.
just won. Well, Amazon, it's going to be a good story.
It is. I'm trying to think because I was trying to think of examples. It's like take the person that's greatest at their craft, a painter, an architect, and just imagine them being at the perfect place at the right time. And that's basically what just happened to Michael Lewis. Like maybe the juiciest, craziest story for an investigative writer to be there. And he was there in the moment it happened.
He didn't write The Big Short, did he?
I think he did.
Did he?
I think he
did
wrote
write
The Big Short.
I was trying to think what else he wrote that was big besides
I think he did
Moneyball.
The Big Short. I think he did. He definitely did Moneyball. I believe he did The Big Short. I can look it up.
I knew he did something. The Big Short is an unbelievable story too.
No, it really, really is. He did The Premonition, if you've never heard of.
I don't know that.
Okay. Liar's Poker is another one that a lot of people know of. He did The Big Short. He did The Blind Side in 2006.
He did Blindside.
Mm-hmm. Flash Boys.
Do you know who turned down Blindside?
Who turned down Blindside?
Julia Roberts. At least I just read that. Do you know who turned down Bourne? This is all clickbait, so you can take this for whatever it's worth. But it was an article. It's a thing about famous actors who turned down famous roles. Brad Pitt.
Interesting.
Supposedly Brad Pitt was first offered.
I don't like
Bourne.
the Bournes. I don't love them. I think they're fine. Like it's not something I like crave. To
Would ever
watch.
go. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
own any of the Bournes, but they're cool.
Well,
They're
all right.
fun.
All right. So
There's no John Wick. How about John Wick 4 coming out?
I don't love John Wick.
Oh,
There's something if the main gist of your movie is you're just kicking the shit out of people, like I'm kind of like
with
I'm
a
not saying it's
pencil.
not, I'm not
With a
I
pencil.
get it. I'm not saying they're not good. I'm just like it's not for me. Like if that's the gist of the movie is like we're just kicking the crap out of everyone. I don't know. Like I would rather watch something else.
Don't you get the like the kind of the sophistication? Like there's almost an elegance to the way John Wick does it, and a nobility
I guess.
to their world.
It's like the Liam Neeson stuff though, like the Takens. Like, do you like the Takens? Have you ever seen the Takens?
No,
with
I
Liam
have,
Neeson?
but when I don't. As a parent, I don't. It's hard to watch Taken.
I get that. For me, like again, it's just that idea though of like there's people standing in front of me and I just have to kick the crap out of all of them. And if that's the basis of the movie, I'm good. Like I can find.
I get it.
Just give me something. Just put a layer over the top of it, and then it's fantastic. The main layer can't be we're just kicking the crap out of.
Well, but they killed his dog.
Wait, who?
John Wick. They killed. That's what. Because his dad was like,
they killed
"You did what? You killed his dog?"
You like to be scared by things, so here's your scary thing for the day because we're probably not going to talk about this at any other time. Scientists, because of the permafrost, it's melting. I'm sure you've heard.
You've talked about the trees growing and things like that.
Yeah. So apparently, they were worried about things. They were worried that with the ice melting, there would clearly be things within the ice that have been frozen for a long period of time.
Okay.
Be it, micro things, diseases, all this stuff. Scientists have now reawoken. Like, what's the word I'm looking for? 7 viruses. One, they have come out and said is a problem for humanity. Like one, if it were to like spread could be problematic. So 6 they're saying not a big deal. They're whatever, like no different than the common cold. One though, they're kind of like, yeah, this is not good. Scientists already have it. In a thing. I don't know, but that's news. Scary stuff.
That's not what I wanted to hear.
No, it is weird. It is weird to think that there are just things that have been frozen. This one, 50,000 years old is what they're saying.
I'll talk about this, which you will like this. I haven't watched it yet. My nephew was telling me about a show called something about Ancient Apocalypse.
Ancient Apocalypse.
You know what I'm talking about?
Graham Hancock. Yes.
How there were advanced civilizations that must have got wiped out because there's no way they could build the pyramids with levers and slaves.
Yes.
Okay.
So
he says it's great. Have you watched it?
I've started it. So I've watched the first 2 episodes on Netflix. I have listened to every podcast he has done with Joe Rogan. So I know for some people, like
the dude's name again?
Graham Hancock.
Great. And he's like an archaeologist, historian,
he's a
scientist.
He's a historic. I would put history in front of the archaeology.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Okay.
I would say he's a historian before archaeologist,
understand.
but he attaches that to the archaeology.
He knows a little bit about everything.
He is unique. Here's what makes him really, really fascinating. Maybe you've already heard all of this from whoever was
I have
watching. Not. What makes him really unique is the scientific community, and this is the part where I don't agree with everything he says, but this part I do agree with him. If you're a scientist, the way you get money, the way you become famous, the way you publish books, yada, yada, the way you make a career out of the thing you love is to find something and defend it. If someone comes along and says, hey, you know that thing you thought was true 30 years ago? It's probably not. You're going to say, no, it is. Like, don't worry about it because you have so much invested in it being true. So essentially what Graham Hancock and some of these other people have done is they've taken a broader approach to looking at older civilizations, the lay of the land, how things formed, why they formed the way they did. And essentially what happens when you look at some of this stuff, if you take a step back, you begin to realize that we've gotten some of it wrong. Not like completely wrong, but wrong. It's kind of like the dinosaurs and feathers stuff, right? Okay. So what happens is you have this guy and he's introducing all of these new things. Is 90% of it right? Is 70% fake? Who knows? I'm not here to say Graham Hancock is 100% right. What I am here to say is the guy's pretty smart, and the evidence he lays out is pretty damning. He's probably somewhere in the 30 to 70% right. And scientists have just refuted him because they don't want to have to do the work. They don't want to have to go back and say, hey, all those books I published and all that, like, I was wrong. And so you have this like thing. But here's what's interesting is now we live in a world where a Netflix will go, here, go make the thing you want to make. Where before, like a PBS would have been like, nah, like we're not doing this.
So to put it into terms for people my age,
Sure.
the scientists are doing the old Arthur Fonzarelli, and they're saying I was
Yes.
because Fonzie couldn't say he was wrong. I don't know
Correct.
if you've never seen.
Yes, that's what scientists are.
It reminds me, as the way you were explaining that is a lot like the movie Oliver Stone's JFK.
Okay.
And that's what I remember. I was in high school, early college, and my girlfriend's dad would not watch it.
Okay.
Because he's like, it's bunk.
Okay.
And I said, I'm sure some of it is, but he brings up a lot of really good points.
Sure.
And it's hard for you to watch this and say it's all bunk.
Sure.
And he's like, I'm not watching it.
Yeah.
And that was his easy way of being a scientist and saying, I don't want to have to think. I don't want to have to rethink all the things that I believed for all these years because I might have been wrong.
Like I will honestly say that I am a fan of Graham Hancock. Like most of the time when he goes on a podcast I listen to, I devour the entire thing. I look up the YouTube videos. Like I think he's a fascinating person. And I'm sitting here telling you like he's probably 50% right.
Right.
Like he's clearly introducing things that are not full concepts because we don't know, but he's also bringing up some stuff that's like, oh yeah, like that makes way more sense than the thing I read 20 years ago. And just people want to dispute it because it's hard to admit you're wrong. It's not hard to admit you're wrong. It's hard to admit you're wrong when your livelihood and your career depends on
I get it.
Depends on you being right. And that's what's happening with these scientists.
No, I get it.
Yeah,
I get
it's really,
it.
really interesting.
Well done.
It is a really interesting watch. Last thing, because we got to end on some type of football thing, right? Deion Sanders.
He's not going to Colorado.
Has an official offer.
He's not going to
I
Colorado.
don't think the story is if he's going to Colorado or not. I think the story is that he has an official offer because now I think it opens the doors for other schools to do it and they don't feel like it's like this showy thing. Colorado offering Deion Sanders
it legitimizes it.
It lets some Big Ten or SEC school go, okay, considering Deion Sanders, we're not going to be laughed at if we hire it and it doesn't work because some other schools thought it was a good idea too. That's what I think it's a big deal.
He's going to end up somewhere in the South. He went to Florida State. I assume he's from Florida. He's probably going to end up, I mean, Florida State's the obvious choice. He probably can't go to Florida because but I mean, what a splash. In the world where you're looking for money, where you're looking for notoriety and all the Florida schools stink again and they're preseason ranked and Miami's always ranked and everyone's
the Fisher contract is tough for Texas A&M. Like I understand logistically it's hard. Someone, I think it was someone that I was listening to brought up Texas A&M being the perfect place. And their whole concept was you're in the SEC. It's not working the way you want it to, but you have more money than you know what to do with. You're in Texas. And it's really kind of like you just need a person that the kids are going to believe in because everything else foundationally is
set
there.
up.
And so that was their argument of like the A&M thing is very, very interesting. If A&M would be willing to get rid of
they would eat a lot of money.
But that was also their point was like A&M's got it. Like if there's probably 24 schools in the country that can look and say like we'll eat this if we really believe this is, and A&M is easily one of them.
Yeah, it's interesting. And Auburn just hired a coach, so he's obviously not going to Auburn. But he could end up. Or there's a part of it that would be awesome if he just stayed where he is.
I think, yes. I've said to you before, there is something unique about his situation that he will not find at a Power 5 school.
Unless he just wins. Unless 5 years from now we're talking about Nick Saban and Dabo Sweeney and Deion Sanders. Yes, I'm with you.
It's going to be, the last thing that I'll say is it will be interesting moving forward. I think him starting at Jackson State when he did, and you just look at where we were where society was, where the culture was, all those things. You have the Black Lives Matters movements, you have the protests, HBCUs, all these kids are saying we're going to historical Black colleges. Like, he hit that. And I'm not saying they wouldn't be amazing if
Right.
it didn't happen.
No, I get it.
But he hit that timing perfectly. I'm curious to see the next couple of classes. Does he ride that momentum, or does that momentum, like the number one recruit in the country wouldn't have gone to Jackson State 2 years before? Would the number one recruit in the country go to Jackson State 2 years after?
Right. No, I get.
And if the answer to both of those questions is no, then what is he really
Then
going to
it's
do
time
at
to bail.
Jackson State? Like, what's really going to happen?
But he could make Jackson State what
Yeah.
Gonzaga was to a degree.
Yes. If the momentum carries, then yes.
He could.
My question is, will it carry? I honestly don't know.
It's interesting, but it's
Really.
it's a neat story. Dion is neat.
It is. Thank you guys for watching the Midday Show. Be sure to go to Weis Markets for all of your grocery needs. Holiday season is still here. It's still here. Doesn't it still feel a
It
little
kind
bit
of
like
doesn't
holidays?
stop, does it?
No,
Don't
not
you
really.
think
Once it
between now and
starts.
Christmas, it's just
No. Everything that you need for your holiday season, be sure to go to Weis Markets. We will be back tomorrow. We're going to do some Christmas stuff
Christmas
with
movies.
Joe,
Joe
with
Smith.
North Central Cinema. Joe Smith. He'll
Yeah.
be in the house.
It'll be fun.
Thank you guys for watching. I'm Jeff Everett. He is Mark Messina. We'll see you guys tomorrow.